So I got up the morning after the debate, and in the shower a surprising thought kept nagging at my subconscious. It seemed almost trivial during the debate, but after a good night's sleep, Nye's story about the Ark just popped into my head. Creationists who've watched this debate are going to have similar experiences with a great many of Bill Nye's magnificently worded adventures through the world of scientific discovery, and hopefully Ken Ham's glib and unsatisfying rebuttals will have raised a red flag. Nye's point about the Ark was one of structural engineering, and it went something like this. Shipbuilding is not a new science. We've been doing it for a while, and in that time explored the process really quite extensively. A wooden ship the size of the Ark has never existed because it doesn't work. The largest seaworthy wooden ship ever built, the Wyoming, twisted and buckled, leaked, then sank because there are physical limits to using wood as a construction material. Modern engineers try to surpass those limits by cross-bracing the wood with iron to try and keep the hull stable. Is it reasonable that a farmer and his 3 sons could build a supermassive wooden ship then, knowing that the best shipbuilders in the world haven't been able to replicate the process in all the time since? 2 Jehovah's Witnesses once asked me if I'd heard the good news about God's perfect design. Thinking myself awfully clever, I asked, if it's so perfectly designed, then why do we share a family of endogenous retroviruses with chimpanzees? Blank faces. I tried to explain that fragments of ancient viruses exist within human DNA, and that we can track the insertion point of one of these viruses back to before humans and chimpanzees diverged into separate species. The genetic signature of hundreds of these viruses matches the evolutionary tree exactly. In fact, this entire phylogenetic tree was automatically generated from completely sequenced genomes. It's written right into the DNA itself, and independently verifies evolutionary theory. I was met with this. Blank smiles. If you've never come across the staring at something behind you salvation smile, you are missing out. But I came upon a realization. I might as well have been saying that the moon is made of cheese, therefore mice have fur coats. It didn't make any sense to them, because these people don't understand even basic genetics. It's not that they're stupid, it's that they're ignorant. They were sheltered from scientific discoveries since childhood by a community of people who fear knowledge of the unknown, and religious leaders who thrive on control of their communities. The audience is used to being told simple religious stories which account for the world they see around them. It doesn't make those stories true, because that's what they have to take on faith. But the stories tell them that they're special, that the world has purpose, and that everything will work out in the end. Oh, and that disobedience will result in burning alive for all eternity. Science has stories too. They explain the world we see around us, they show us that we're unique in the universe, and they give us purpose. Best of all, they're actually true. Nye kept the discussion in the realm of reason. The conversation was swayed away from the unknowable, and away from information overload. The vast majority of creationists don't know complex theology, so they take what theologians say on their authority, and people in general struggle to follow advanced scientific concepts, so they switch off and stop engaging, which is a shame because all the best stuff is always buried at the bottom. If the debate shifts to either of these extremes, a lay audience has no choice but to accept an argument from authority. The way apologists like Ham have succeeded in the past is in their appeal to emotion. Religion tells a story that answers the questions most people ask at some point or other, whilst preventing those same people from asking about the story itself. The more science literacy a person has, the more likely they are to object to Ken Ham's parody of science. It doesn't lead to an outright rejection of theology, the two can coexist, but it highlights which parts of the Bible are not physically possible without the intervention of magic. Which brings us back to the Ark. Nye's story about the Wyoming is a powerful one. It's simple, it's verifiable, and it speaks volumes about Ham's magical thinking. The Wyoming's wooden hull twisted and buckled in heavy seas, despite the addition of 90 diagonal iron cross bracings on each side, and could only be kept afloat with pumps. It sank shortly after it was built, killing the entire crew, and this was the very pinnacle of wooden hull technology, before it was abandoned for more sensible materials, like steel. Yes, that is the USS Nimitz, to scale, beside the Ark. The realization dawned on me whilst researching this video that for the task of transporting all life on Earth, the Ark's not actually very big. For a wooden ship, it's impossibly large and testably breaks the limits of the material it's made of. But comparing it to modern ships, which by the way you also cannot construct out of wood, it's no wonder creationist math has to scrap species in favour of kinds. Ain't no way you can fit 16 million species on even the Nimitz. Remember, this 100-year-old Ark was supposed to house, according to Ham's hilariously low estimates, 16,000 animals for over a year, and that's to say nothing of all the food and fresh water consumed by 16,000 animals over the course of a year. But all of these estimates by Ham are just made up. They're not based on the species we observe today, they're based on the biblical dimensions of the Ark. This was the biggest number Ham could pluck out of a hat without being laughed off the stage by basic geometry. Ham's vision of science is starting with the answer and working backwards, to pick out only the data that doesn't contradict his interpretation of the Bible. Bill Nye's approach was smart. He showed the audience the unspoken consequences of Ham's number fiddling. What exactly does 7,000 kinds of animal exploding into 16 million species over 4,000 years look like? An absolute disaster zone of hyper-accelerated evolution, that's what. The audience has to accept 11 new species evolving per day, every day, for 4,000 years, without any historical mention of it ever happening. Awkward. There's no particular reason why a god couldn't have been responsible for creating life, but trying to change the nature of the universe just so he fits one interpretation of an ancient poem is the very definition of counterproductive. So who won? Watch the debate and form your own opinion, but the aftermath is fairly telling. According to a poll on the evangelical website Christian Today, Bill Nye obliterated Ken Ham. This isn't surprising, considering Ham directly contradicted himself at least 3 times by my count. But creationism has been denounced by several major denominations of Christianity for decades, most notably the Vatican, which represents 60% of the world's Christians and fully endorses pure, undiluted evolution. Quote, "Creationism isn't science, even though it pretends to be. If you want to teach it in schools, it should be taught when religion or cultural history is taught, not science." Even Pat Robertson at this point is imploring creationists like Ham to stop making the rest of them look stupid. There are a wealth of videos discussing the debate already, which I encourage you to watch, but I'll leave you with these thoughts. During the debate, this was science and this was Ham. Can you spot the difference? After the debate, this is science and this is Ham. He doesn't want a conversation beyond selling you his DVDs. He doesn't want you to look for the evidence. He wants you to take his word that it's not there to find. He's deliberately trying to suppress your knowledge of the amazing discoveries made in the past 100 years. Don't let him get away with that.